we were living in upstate New York. I was working as a trainer in a long-term healthcare facility. I trained the staff how to work with older people. We were part of a small church, and after 2 years, the elders of that church came to us and said, "You don't belong here. God has something else for you." So being the young buck that I was, I thought, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. So I didn't listen to them. And then God started to go to work and basically got us kicked out of our apartment. Well, he didn't get us kicked out, but we were asked to leave our apartment. We had to find a new place. We didn't like the new place. And the night before we were moving, our best friends came and said, "Here's the keys to our car. Drive around the block and decide whether you want to move in with us until God shows you what you want to do, what he wants you to do, or else you go to that apartment." As soon as he said it, I knew that's what God wanted. That led us to go to Westminster because we weren't thinking about it, but because we started to listen to what God was doing, ended up at Westminster. Second year we were there, they offered a vision trip with Ed Clowney to France. And I really didn't know what I was doing at Westminster. I just knew that's where God wanted us, but I had no idea, didn't want to be a pastor. The only thing I thought was good was a youth pastor. But we went on this trip, and we were the only couple on the trip, so we got put with every family, French family, believers, and missionaries. So after a month of hearing all those stories of what God was doing and how there was this great need, almost without talking to each other, when we went home, my wife and I knew that that's where God wanted us to be. That's how God took us from, being comfortably settled in upstate New York to, heading over to Paris. There was a couple of families that we stayed with, and they just basically started talking about how few believers there were and how few workers there were. And that they kept pushing, the need of praying for other workers to come and help them. It wasn't that, they weren't involved in the work, but it was that they were saying, here we are, we have this huge harvest field, and we just can't do it ourselves. The Lord used it to help open our eyes to see, I could have been a pastor in any church, but there's 10 other people behind me, 100 other people who could do that job. So whereas in Europe there was, hardly anybody who was willing to do that job.